Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Koonce, the CEO of Mammoth Growth, and I'm here today with Ryan Salomon, the CEO of Kissmetrics. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing today, Ryan?
So pretty exciting times. You've been at the job now, say what, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, it was the beginning of June that I officially took the helm.
Okay, awesome. And so it seems like Kissmetrics has been around for a long time. I don't know, it seems like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And as a partner, Mammoth has been working with Kissmetrics as a product really since our beginning, and seeing the evolution of the space. And it's been kind of a wild ride. I feel like you guys have gone through some ebbs and flows. And so now that you're at the helm, where are you headed?
Yeah. So for Kissmetrics, the focus is really from the beginning. I mean, we're the original people-based analytics tool, right? So we're going to hone in on being able to pull more people out of the analytics tool, because what we really see is that there's a ton of companies who are using Google Analytics, but Google Analytics doesn't really give you a person-based report, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, a company is really, well, how many people are doing things, right? You don't really charge people by sessions. You charge people by people. And so we want to facilitate that, and we want to take that to the next level. So for us, the future looks like, take this group of people, and now I need you to act upon it. And so we see an industry that is kind of fragmented, and what I mean by that is you go to Urban Airship for in-app notifications, right? You go to MailChimp for email, right? But you really should have one system that you can say, do this with these people, and then you can then ship them off. Okay. So that's our focus going forward.
Okay, so I guess one of the things you mentioned was companies are getting off of Google Analytics, and we've seen this trend over the history of Mammoth Growth, where basically somebody has Google Analytics, everybody has it actually, and then they're starting to realize that you can do more than just look at these sessions or bounce rates or page visits. And I think it'd be interesting because there are lots of product analytics solutions today, a lot more than there were obviously 10 years ago. Where does Kissmetrics sort of fit into that stack? Is it a company that's now just for the first time thinking about being a little more sophisticated? Or, is it a, multinational, giant behemoth, problem-solving enterprise solution?
Yeah, so, I mean, our solution is really focused for that group who is looking to make that next move from a Google Analytics.
Okay.
Right, so, for instance, with Google Analytics, you may look at bounce rate, for instance, as a good example. With us, what you'd be looking at is, well, give me the people who got past the bounce rate, and now let me see how they actually converted on a people basis.
Okay.
Right, and that's far more beneficial, really, to any business. But to directly answer your question, it's going to be that group who is like, hey, let's take that next step, and let's be able to see like different funnels. Let's be able to see lifetime values, things like that, at a really person-based level.
And then what are some of the reports that you can run in Kissmetrics that you wouldn't normally be able to run in something like Google Analytics?
Yeah, so for us, we're going to have, it's obviously a ton. Some that recently come to mind for myself that I've worked with companies personally on is things like, well, what are the things people do, for instance, 5 minutes after you do a specific event? So to give you a clear example, one company I'm working with, I won't name names, but they do the 10% offer, like right when you hit the homepage. Sign up for the 10% offer, right? So the question became, well, what do people do right after they sign up? Because at that point, they're interested in your product, but what are they interested in? And so we'll be able to do those type of reports. We give you access to your raw data, which I think is a huge benefit to many companies.
Okay, what does that mean? So you're going to dump the data into a warehouse, or you can query an API, or you can use an editor in the tool. Like how does it work for Kissmetrics?
Yeah, so for Kissmetrics, since we already have your data, we're querying your data anyway. We give you access to actually query that database directly.
Okay, and what skills do you need as an analyst to be able to use that functionality?
At that level, you really just need to know SQL.
Okay,
so as long as you know SQL, you can do whatever you want. It is whatever you want with your data. If you don't know SQL, we're always here to help you. So we can put a little template together You can just pop in events, pop out events, get what you need.
But let me be clear, you don't have to know SQL to use Kissmetrics. That's something that's in addition to having, metrics and cohorts and paths and funnels and all the other things that the platform provides.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be an advanced use case.
Okay.
To go back and answer your question on, well, what are the reports that you're going to get? Let's say you're not that advanced. Some of the reports you're going to be able to see are things like, give me the percentage of people, the percentage of new users who actually come back to my site, and group them by weeks. So what percentage of new users actually come back week 1?
Okay.
What percentage come back week 2? You're going to be able to see the lifetime value, as I mentioned before, on your users. You're going to be able to see kind of all your checkout flow funnels. It's really difficult to track with Google Analytics.
Right.
Just because of the cross-device tracking, as we've discussed now for years.
Right.
It's just far easier to do that tracking with Kissmetrics.
And so when you're answering those questions, it's, obviously SQL is a more advanced feature. Those aren't people using that are just jumping across from Google Analytics. I mean, you have to sort of graduate to that functionality.
You do. As long as you have a dev on hand, you're good to go. Because SQL is such a basic language for a lot of devs.
Right.
That you're really able to get a lot out of it.
And then what type of customers are, you focus on? Some companies are focused on, financial services or enterprise or SaaS or e-commerce. Is there a sweet spot for your particular product?
I'd probably say the sweet spot for us would probably be the SaaS group. So SaaS and e-commerce traditionally we do really well with. The SaaS group, because we can do all your stickiness, all your retention numbers, things like that with us. With the e-commerce group, kind of the same thing. So we'll give you your retention instead of like a cancel event. You'll have how many people purchased within 90 days, let's say, of making an initial purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say SaaS and e-commerce are probably the two who just fit the best in what we try to do. Okay,
cool. And then integration. So I know that you're sitting on top of Segment. So if somebody has Segment, they can turn on Kissmetrics really easily.
Yeah.
What's the other way of implementing Kissmetrics? Because the thing is, with people that are on Google Analytics, they're used to just putting a JavaScript snippet on their page, and then everything's supposed to just work. How's that different with the way that yours is implemented?
Yes.
For the people watching, obviously we know how to do that.
Sure, sure. It's really no different than Google Analytics. So you're going to put your snippet on the page. From there on, out of the box, you're still going to get your page views, right? Which is what Google Analytics offers.
Yeah, but in order to really get the people-based value, you have to identify users and track events and do some other things.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
And so we're working to actually make that codeless, right? So that you automatically get your identifications in so that you can immediately run a report that says...
Well, if you do that, I'm not going to have a job, so...
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, we'd love to take some of your business and head it over to Kissmetrics.
Okay, great. So as a as a company, I think it's great to see that Kissmetrics sort of back in the playing field. I feel like there was sort of an ebb there for a while.
Sure.
You mentioned that you're going to take the company into a direction where you can now leverage some of these behavioral cohorts and do things with them. As an industry, any thoughts on where MarTech is going? I mean, we've seen lots of talk over the years about dumping things in the warehouse and doing everything there. Obviously, a lot of the companies are now starting to try and bring everything together into some kind of a unified suite approach because, you have marketing automation, but marketing automation needs behavioral targeting, you have attribution, you have landing path testing optimization. How do you see it, and where do you see it going, or is the jury still out?
I think the jury's still out, obviously, but I think there's, from my perspective, there's just so much that we split off in many ways. Right. So what I personally still see is a lot of companies who the product team is using one piece of analytics. The marketing team is using another piece of analytics. And so I think we still have a lot of companies that are very siloed in what they do.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a lot we can do to bring that together. So one example of this may be the marketing team is singularly focused on getting leads, for instance, right? Leads go to sales. Sales is now only focused on closing, and then it heads over to the product team, and the product team is, let me just focus on retention. Right?
Yep.
But I think sometimes what we forget is that for growth to happen, there has to be like compoundingness to it, right? So I do think the industry moving forward is going to kind of move towards kind of like understanding loops better.
Okay.
Right? So for instance, everyone has gotten through the funnel. Now, how do I get the people who have gotten through the funnel to actually help me pull people back into the funnel?
Okay.
Right? And to do that, that requires teams working together. Like, you cannot silo yourself off that way.
Right.
And so that's something that going forward we'll also be diving into to see how we can visualize that better.
Okay.
So that companies can start to see, oh, my actual ROI down the line on this is compounding and ever growing.
That's great. So listen, that was a lot of great information. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Of course.
I've got with me Ryan Salomon, the CEO of Kissmetrics, and I'm Ryan Koonce, the CEO of Mammoth Growth. Thank you.